Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Once again, we gotta talk about the hypocrisy of the Democrats and how they don't like a taste of their own medicine. For example, when they send protesters, extremists to protest the Supreme Court judges, right? People like AOC, who claim they're fighting for women's rights, they're totally fine with that, right? They're totally fine with them being doxxed, being harassed, all that stuff, okay? However, when somebody comes up to her, right, and protests her in her face, all of a sudden she's whining, crying about it, claiming harassment, okay? And we had DC Mayor Muriel Bowser come out here recently and complain about Texas sending illegals to Washington, D.C., right? Even though the Democrat Party is pro-illegal immigration, right? And they've been soft on the border, right? So she complained about it to Texas instead of complaining to Biden, right, and their administration and Alejandro Mayorkas and the supposed border czar Kamala Harris about the issue, right? Then we have another Democrat mayor, Eric Adams of New York City, whom, by the way, recently pushed a proposal to try to make it legal for illegals to vote in New York City, right? Now, this guy has came out like Muriel Bowser and started complaining about illegal immigrants flooding into his city, overwhelming resources and their social safety net. And he's placing the blame on red states, claiming they're busing them from their states to cities like New York. Except this time, I don't think red states are actually ones to blame, okay? However, Eric Adams is complaining about this anyway. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play this clip because this is absolutely glorious. Take a look.
Tonight, we have a gripping look at the migrant crisis at the border, now touching the tri-state. Shelters in New York City are filling up with thousands of migrants from Central and South America seeking asylum. Mayor Adams says they're being shipped from border states like Texas and Arizona. The Republican governors in those states pushed back hard against that today. News 4's Melissa Russo spoke to a migrant family about their journey to the Bronx and what they fear could happen next.
Sitting on a sidewalk in the South Bronx, worlds away from their home in Venezuela, a family waits for a better life. 14 days ago, Edgar Bracamonte crossed the Mexican border into Arizona, then boarded a bus to New York. He says he's in search of a better future for his children, and he's holding on to hope, trying to stay patient and calm. Edgar is one of thousands of migrants who have arrived here on the doorstep of the New York City homeless shelter system in recent weeks, an unanticipated stop in a quest for political asylum.
But we do need help to deal with this new wave of those who are in need of shelter.
Mayor Eric Adams this morning announced that 2,800 migrants like Edgar have flooded into the city's already crowded homeless shelter system in the past 6 weeks. He says border states like Texas and Arizona are shipping the migrants here because New York, unlike other states, has a right to shelter, meaning they won't turn people away.
We need some of those states that have been giving people one-way tickets. We need them to understand that this must be a partnership.
The mayor wants the federal government now to send resources to support the influx of asylum seekers, something local homeless people think is a good idea.
At least give some money with it, because it's already like turmoil for the people that's from the city.
They want to help people, but it's not easy.
In a bizarre twist today, the border states pushed back against the mayor. Texas and Arizona denying they're sending any migrants to New York, adding they've only sent some on buses to Washington, D.C. They say Mayor Adams needs to get his facts straight and pay closer attention to what's really occurring. Edgar says it was a church, not the state of Arizona, that paid his family's bus fare to New York, and while they wait to be placed in a temporary shelter, his 10-year-old son, Otonio, told me his family's dream is to have stability here and to be able to eat. He says there has not been enough food in the shelter so far. I asked Mayor Adams how the city is ensuring these families have their basic needs met.
There you are. You are hitting on those topics of why we're reaching out to the federal government and stating this is a real burden on New Yorkers.
A man who walked by as we were interviewing Edgar was kind enough to take the family up the block and buy them some lunch. Meanwhile, the White House says they're considering Mayor Eric Adams' request for financial help. In the South Bronx, Melissa Russo, News 4 New York.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible how a city with, over 1 million people? Okay, way more than that, right? They're complaining about a few thousand illegals, right? A couple thousand illegals coming to the city, right? They go to homeless shelters and whatnot, and all of a sudden, it's a crisis. So according to Eric Adams, all of a sudden, they're taking up resources. They're a drain on our social safety net, right? According to Eric Adams, this sounds eerily similar to the same arguments, these same exact arguments that red states at the border who suffer from illegal immigration the most, suffer the consequences of it. It sounds like the same exact arguments that Dave made, right? Arguments that have been characterized as bigoted and racist and xenophobic by people on the left like Eric Adams, okay, who staunchly, when the illegals aren't in his state, support illegal immigration, right? Just like the whole Democrat Party, right? They're totally fine with illegal immigration, but just not in their states, right? Not in their cities. They don't want the illegals, right? They don't want the illegals, okay? But they want the illegals in red states. When they're in red states, though, it's totally fine, totally okay, totally cool. Stop complaining about it, you bigot, right? Stop complaining about it, okay? Again, it really blows my mind, the hypocrisy here. It really does, okay? It really does. And I just find it hilarious how this guy is blaming red states, saying, well, they're busing the illegals here, when it's like, nah, buddy. They're not busing the illegals to New York. They're busing to Washington, D.C. because the whole point of busing to Washington, D.C. is to protest against the federal government and their policies, right? Because the federal government is the one that is responsible for letting these illegals in this country, right? For having soft on border policies, right? So when Eric Adams is complaining, he needs to complain to Biden. Now, what the illegals do in Washington, D.C., once they get there, that's on them. A lot of them are probably going to places like New York City, right? And Miami, okay? They probably are, okay? It's pretty easy to get from Washington, D.C. to New York, okay? I feel like even illegals can figure that out. So, again, at first when the Republicans did this policy about busing illegals to D.C., right, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at first because I was like, well, I would rather see them bust out of the country, right? I just don't want them here, period, even if they are in, blue states, okay, because I'm against illegal immigration. However, because the Biden administration basically refuses to take care of the situation at the border, I can see why red states feel like, you know what, if they're not going to deal with this, or if they don't want to deal with it, then we have to push the consequences of illegal immigration on them. They have to feel the consequences of it to feel what we feel. Maybe that will get them to act, right? Which, lo and behold, you're now seeing Democratic mayors come out here and complain and beg the federal government for help ever since the red states adopted this policy of busing illegals to places like Washington, D.C., which, again, probably does have a trickle effect into cities like New York, okay? Again, ain't it crazy how all of a sudden when they are experiencing the negative consequences of illegal immigration, they become bigots, right? They become xenophobic. All of a sudden, they're complaining about the strain that these people have on resources in the social safety net. These same exact arguments that people in the red state have been making, the same exact complaints that they've been making this whole time. Again, it's hilarious how that works. It's hilarious how that works. But who knows? What we could be seeing here is that Democrats are revolting against this because they know Hispanics are now starting to vote red, right? They're afraid that, oh, snap, we just let in a whole bunch of people who we thought were going to vote blue, and now all of a sudden they're going to vote red. You know what? It's time to get tough on illegal immigration. It's time to get these people out of our cities, right? Because we don't want them to vote for Republicans here, right? Maybe that's it. And yes, I know that illegal immigrants can't vote. I'm just saying future generations, okay, that, will be able to vote because when they're born here, their kids are born here, they become citizens, right? Which means they can vote. which is what the Democrat Party is banking on, okay? That's what they're banking on, particularly when it comes to flipping some of these red states blue, right? That's why they're so frustrated with illegals coming to their states, because they never wanted illegals to come to their states. They always wanted them to stay in the red states so they can have kids, and then those kids can turn around and vote Democrat and try to flip that state blue, right? That's what the plan has been. Blue states and Democrats want red states to live with the consequences of their policies that they really don't even support. Not for their own states, right? Not for their own states, okay? Again, it's absolutely fascinating to see how this stuff works, but I don't want to hear no complaints. I don't want to hear no crying. I don't want to hear no whine about it, because this is what your party supports, right? If you got an issue with it, take it up with Joe Biden. Take it up with the border czar, Kamala Harris. Don't take it up with the red states, because they're not going to deal with the consequences of the federal government and their soft on border policies. They're fed up. They're done with this, right? They're going to let you guys deal with it, because you're the guys that are supposed to be pro-illegal immigration, okay? And just remember, if you're against that, if you don't like those illegal immigrants being there, you're a xenophobic, racist bigot. Just remember that. Just remember that. You guys said that. Not me. You said that. So you just got to deal with it. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.